to my channel. I'm Liam. Round 12, the first of the bye rounds, will be soon upon us. And it's a very important trading round, this one. You get 3 trades. It's important as it's probably one of the most difficult rounds to trade. You bring in players, trade players who have the bye, but trade in players who's going to have a bye in 2 weeks. Are we allowed to bring in players on the bye? And the big news as well coming out is what do we do with Brodie Grundy? Out for at least a fortnight. Lucky for me, I don't have Gawn, so he's a pretty easy swap. But if you already have Gawn and hold Grundy, it is a very much team-based thing. If you have enough numbers to cover the rounds, holding him wouldn't be the worst idea. But if you do have a luxury trade up for during this round, trading to a Darcy, or I think Darcy's the only option I would looking at targeting for these rucks. I wouldn't go down any further. Nat Nui just doesn't play enough game time for my liking. He does have a decent buy for that middle buy where you can cover with Flynn, but I think Darcy's more of a long term, and you can actually swing him forward, trade one of your forwards up to Grundy later on in the season. So that's my thoughts of what to do with Grundy. I'm lucky; I'll just straight swap him to Gawn. So either if you have a luxury trade, go to Darcy. But if you've got enough players playing this week, I would hold him through and save a trade, because he will be someone that you want at the end of the season. So you're pretty much wasting 2 trades. So if you can save 2 trades for an upgrade somewhere else in your team, certainly would ideally do that. It is a pretty difficult trading round. Rookies are hard to come by this week. There's no real under 200s that I would want. Ralph Smith's kicked 2 goals and only got a 38. Pavarino only scored 25. Garcia got injured, so there's no real options here. In this price bracket, there's a couple of options that I don't mind. Madden is probably my number 1 out of these options, even though I think he's probably got the worst job security out of the 2 others I've got in mind. But I don't think he loses his spot this week. He played a very good game. They don't tend to give him the ball, but he's very good at reading the play and takes a lot of intercept marks. And with his flexibility, defender forward, be very handy for this 3 rounds. You can swing him back, can swing him forward, because there's a lot of popular defenders in the round 14 bye, but there's a lot of popular forwards in the round 12 bye. So having him down at forward in round 12 and then up in defence in round 14 is very handy. So he's my number 1 pick out of these rookies. Number 2 would be Wilson. He's got not the highest job, got pretty decent job security, I think, at Collingwood. Doesn't have the highest scoring potential, but will make a little bit of cash. I don't see him averaging more than 40, but probably 40, 45, but he might get defender status later on, playing mostly defence. It will be in 6 weeks, though. You probably don't intend holding him for that long, but provides decent cover for the first 2 rounds, where it's mostly it's pretty heavy in the forward line. And my other option in this price bracket, if you do need a defender, Murphy. Again, like Wilson, I feel like he's got pretty strong job security at Collingwood with them pretty much out of it, so just playing, giving experience to players. Do see him averaging about 55. He played a nice little wing role on the weekend. I would go Madden over him for 60 extra K, but the only not ideal thing with Murphy is there's a lot of popular defenders with this bye. So with a Highmore, there's I don't think many have Murray, but there's Laird, Harms. I don't know if people have Shoal anymore. Salem. There's a fair few defenders with that buy. So I would hold off if you look fine in that round. Wouldn't put you against to bring in Murphy, but just be aware of your buy structure. And with Reeves, don't bring him in this week. I don't know what happened. He got subbed out, I'm pretty sure, of the game on the weekend with a little ankle injury. Just wait and see, but he's certainly an option off the bye if he plays in round 13. There's no one really else I want to target in these price brackets. Poulter's gone too high. Coleman Jones is too high for anyone's liking. Same as Waitman. 325 is too much to pay for these sort of guys. Same in this bracket. Laddams has hit a bit of form, but last set will be back in a little bit, so wouldn't want to touch him at all. But in this price bracket, I'd like to talk a bit about Heaney. He doesn't have the midfield role that we're all after, but his half forward role at Sydney is pretty, from what I watched on the weekend, pretty handy little role. I don't see him think he can go 135 every week, but I see him averaging 85, 90. He's lead up forward. They like the ball in his hands. They like him delivering the ball forward, but like him also kicking goals as well. So if you can kick a couple of goals a week, take 5 to 8 marks a game, that's probably 85, 90, which is all we want at 539. So here's an option. Forwards is not really heavy in the last buy round, so here's one that I'm looking at targeting possibly this week. Dusty is another one that he's 150k down. He's slowly starting to hit form, but I probably wouldn't want to target him this week with buy in the next. I feel like I'm pretty decent for this buy, but I feel like there's a lot of popular forwards that have that buy. So I'll probably look to hold off till round 14 to bring Dusty in if the funds are a bit short for you. If questions about bringing in players on their buy, I actually don't mind it. I did it last year. I don't know who it was, but bringing in a player on his buy, if you have 20 or 21 playing, and this 22nd player might only give you 20 points, but then he has a buy later, you're pretty much losing out about 50 points for the next 2 weeks if you're struggling to field people in those buy rounds. So bringing a player off on his buy isn't the worst thing. Just I wouldn't bring in a rookie because I just don't know with their job security whether they're going to play or not. But bringing in a premium, you might lose out 20, 30 points, but in the future weeks, if you're having 18 players, that's an extra 60, 70, even probably 80, 90 over those couple of weeks. So take a hit this week, but then certainly benefit in the future weeks. Moving up a little bit of price bracket, Chris Mayne is an interesting one. This is like the Zeeble role at Collingwood. They like to shoot it back to him, takes a couple of kick-outs, and with him gaining defender status, I do like him. Again, my problem is I'm pretty stacked in that buy, but if you're not overly stacked, he's someone that I'll be looking at bringing in. So a very low break even like Heaney. I do see him averaging about that 95 to 100 mark. He's a little injury prone though, so just be wary. And Heppel's hit some form at Essendon, but I'd go Mayne over him. And defenders are pretty popular in that middle buy as well. I pretty much said defenders are popular everywhere other than this first buy. Bailey Dale is alright, but I probably wouldn't. It's just the name I wouldn't trust. But if you want him, I'd probably want Heppel over any of the rest. These players, Daniel, that middle buy again, probably would wait until after that. Forwards, again, I said Darcy is certainly an option to bring in. If you have those buy rounds free, I probably won't bring him in this week, as I said before, with Grundy, but certainly an option. And you could even swing him forward. As I said, swing him forward later on in the season, or have him forward and then swing him into the ruck if any injury props up. So you can then trade a Grundy or a Gawn if they do get injured to a premium of your liking. Bolton's another one. Like Dusty, I would wait until after his bye, but playing that high half forward role, getting a lot of marks, and I've got him on my Supercoach team, and I feel like he's someone that I would like near the end of my end of the season. Probably wouldn't want to target any of these midfielders. You all pretty much want to target those 750, 800k guys, because you're losing out at the end of the season. You'd rather wait a week to get a better player than lose out on 100 points later on the season. These 700k mids, Keys is a very surprising one. Is similar to the Rockcliffe role at Brisbane. They're not the best team. No one will go near him, but he just tackles a lot, gets a lot of cheap kicks out of in the back line. He's certainly a pod option that, with the last buy as well, mids that I'd like to target. Similar to Oliver, I'm looking to target that last buy, Jack Steele, because they are pretty stacked in this middle buy with McRae and Merritt. The Bulldogs boys, Merritt, Brisbane boys, Richmond, probably have Collier Dawkins, Martin. Who else was on that buy? Carlton with Walsh. Pretty popular buy. So bringing in someone like a Keys or an Oliver or a Steele is certainly beneficial for the next two rounds, and I think they're keepers for the rest of the year. Defenders, Lockie Whitfield's an interesting one. I've been very tempted to bringing him in for Markov on his buy. If the Grundy news didn't happen, I would have a trade to possibly do that, but I won't be able to do. But certainly Whitfield is an option on his buy and also off as well. Crisp got a very nice role moving into the midfield now at Collingwood. I like him, and I also like Mills as well. His midfield role was played all year and averaging 109, which will be top two defenders for the year, I believe. So those three I probably look to target if you're wanting to bring in a defender this week. Forwards, Zorko's hit a bit of form, but would wait till after his bye. So my pretty much reasoning is to pick either players on the round 14 bye, or even pick players on their bye now. Would be unless you're pretty comfortable with having a player you're bringing in with that round 13 bye, if you know you're going to be fine for future rounds. With that, and any 800Ks, Oliver I like with that last buy. Also like Took for next week. Has a great role. No one's going to go near him playing at the Gold Coast. Has a little bit of injury worry, but he's racking up very nicely. And most of the Bontempellis, the Lions, for that middle buy, I would wait to target, and a Parish would wait to target them till after. Hopefully I've given you some advice that you want. I'll be back on Thursday with my preview. Captain options, loophole options probably not necessary, but I don't know the overall what the rule is because last year they locked out the buy players at the start of the round. I don't know with the rolling lockout whether they stay or not. I'll give you more insight on Thursday to what happens there, and also give you some of my captain thoughts for this coming round. So, hope everyone is well, and thanks for listening.